want to know what it feels like to be a ghost in a suit that costs more than your mother's life insurance policy? You want to know what it's like to stand in a room full of people who run the world, holding a silver tray until your arms burn, while they look right through you like you're a stain on the wallpaper? My name is Marcus. I'm 6'4", broad as a barn door and black, and in the circles Sterling Vance runs in that makes me two things: invisible when they want a drink, and a threat when they want to feel superior. I run the household staff at the iron mill, the fortress Sterling Vance built on the cliffs of Seattle to keep humanity out. And I'm going to tell you the story of how the coldest man in America melted, and how the nastiest woman in the world finally got exactly what was coming to her. It started on a Tuesday. I'll never forget it because the air in the house felt like static electricity before a lightning strike. Sterling Vance, the man who buys companies just to dismantle them for sport, came home early. He had just closed a $2 billion merger, the kind of deal that puts your face on every magazine cover in the airport newsstand. He walked through those massive front doors, his eyes dead and empty, looking like a man who had forgotten what sleep was. And then he stopped. He didn't scream. He didn't throw his briefcase. He just sniffed the air. Vanilla. That was the crime. The head housekeeper, a nice lady named Patricia who had worked for senators and royalty, had lit vanilla candles. She thought it would make the place feel like a home instead of a mausoleum. She thought wrong. Sterling Vance doesn't want a home. He wants a void. He walked up to her, his voice so quiet it made the hair on my arms stand up, and he asked about the cedarwood candles. When she said she replaced them, he looked at her like she was a bug he didn't even have the energy to step on. He fired the entire staff, 5 people, good people, people with rent to pay and kids to feed. He fired them in under 10 minutes because the air smelled sweet. That's the kind of monster we were dealing with, or at least, that's who he tried to be. The rumors spread fast. In this town, the rich gossiped like teenagers, but nobody gossiped more than Alina Whitmore. You need to understand Alina. She's the kind of woman who thinks she was born with a crown fused to her skull. She's old money, the kind that smells like mothballs and judgment. She came by the house a few days after the firing to check on poor Sterling, but really, she just wanted to gloat. I was in the foyer, polishing the marble console table, trying to make myself small. It's hard to be small when you're my size, especially when someone like Alina is in the room. She stopped right behind me. I could feel her eyes crawling over my back. "You missed a spot," she said. Her voice wasn't loud. It was sharp like a paper cut. I turned around, keeping my eyes on her shoes, Gucci, red leather, ugly as sin. "I'll get it right away, Mrs. Whitmore." She stepped closer, invading my space. She looked me up and down, her nose wrinkling like she smelled something rotting. "You know," she said, letting the silence hang, "it's so dark in this hallway, and having you standing there, looming, it really doesn't help the lighting. You cast such a big shadow, it's aggressive." "I'm just doing my job, ma'am." "Don't speak back to me," she snapped, her voice rising just enough to sting. "God, why does Sterling hire people like you? It's unsettling. You look like you should be bouncing at a cheap club, not dusting antiques. You look violent. It's in the eyes. It's in the posture." I gripped the polishing cloth tight. My mother raised me to be respectful. My father taught me that a man's dignity is the one thing nobody can take unless you give it to them. So I breathed in. I breathed out. "Is there anything you need, Mrs. Whitmore?" She laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. "I need you to not exist in my peripheral vision. You look poor, Marcus. You look like you crawled out of a gutter and put on a costume. Your family, did they raise you in a barn? Is that why you take up so much space? Because you're used to livestock?" She leaned in, whispering now. "You're lucky Sterling is eccentric. If this were my house, I wouldn't let your kind pass the service entrance. You lower the property value just by standing there." She walked away, her heels clicking on the floor like gunshots. I swallowed the rage. It tasted like battery acid, but I stayed. I needed the money, and I knew deep down that Sterling Vance was going to chew through staff until he found a ghost. And then the ghost arrived. Her name was Willa. The agency sent her over with a warning. She is invisible. She doesn't speak unless spoken to. She doesn't make noise. She doesn't exist. I saw her on the first day, 5:30 in the morning. She was small, wearing a grey uniform that looked 2 sizes too big, with her dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. They missed nothing. She walked into that house like she was entering a war zone. The place was a mess, dishes piled up, dust settling. She didn't flinch. She took off her shoes at the door and put on thick wool socks. Silence. She moved through the hallway like smoke. I watched her from the security monitors in the break room. She found the cedarwood candles, the ones the old staff hid, and put them back exactly where they belonged. She adjusted the lights, dimming them from that migraine-inducing white to a warm, soft amber. She didn't just clean, she curated. But then I saw something that made me freeze. She was dusting the main desk in the study, and the light caught her hand. On her finger she was wearing a ring, but it wasn't gold, it wasn't silver. It was copper wire, twisted and bent by clumsy hands, wrapped around a piece of sea glass. It looked like something a child would make. It looked like trash. In a house full of millions, she was wearing a piece of junk on her finger like it was the Hope diamond. Sterling came home that night ready to fire her. I knew the look. He stormed in, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, but then he stopped. He looked around. The lights were warm. The air smelled like cedar. On the counter, instead of the black coffee that gave him the shakes, there was a glass of water infused with cucumber and lemon. He drank it. He stood there for 5 minutes, just breathing. He didn't fire her. He didn't even see her. She had vanished before he walked through the door. Weeks went by. Willa was a phantom. She left clues of her existence, fresh flowers, perfectly pressed shirts, a book left on his pillow, and not just any book. The Velveteen Rabbit, an old copy falling apart. I saw Sterling find it. He picked it up like it was made of glass. He sat on the edge of his bed, this titan of industry, this man of steel. And he traced the cover with his thumb. He looked broken, he looked human. I started to suspect something. I dug into the files. Sterling Vance grew up in an orphanage, Mercy House, a grim place in Portland, and guess who else was in the system at the same time? Willa Chen. She wasn't just a housekeeper, she was a ghost from his past. The breaking point came with the charity gala. Sterling's publicist, a woman who had a heart made of calculators, insisted he host a party to clean up his image after the candle-firing scandal. The iron mill was transformed. Crystals, white roses, a string quartet playing music that sounded like boredom, and Elena Whitmore. Elena arrived early, of course. She was wearing a red dress that cost more than my car, and she was already 3 martinis deep. She was prowling the room, looking for a victim. She found me first. "Marcus," she slurred, waving a hand at me, "get me another drink, and try not to touch the glass with those hands. I don't know where they've been, but I can imagine it wasn't anywhere sanitary. Probably eating something greasy with your fingers, right? That's what you people do." I took her glass. "Right away, ma'am." "Don't look me in the eye," she hissed. "It's defiant. You should be grateful you're even allowed indoors. Honestly, the smell, it's like wet dog and cheap detergent." I walked away before I did something that would send me to jail. I went to the kitchen, my hands shaking. Willa was there, organizing trays. She looked at me, really looked at me. "You okay?" she asked softly. "Just stay away from the lady in red," I warned her. "She's looking for blood." Willa nodded, tightening her ponytail. "I'll be invisible." But you can't be invisible when fate has other plans. An hour later, the ballroom was packed. Sterling was miserable, standing in the corner. Elena was holding court by the fireplace, laughing too loud, gesturing with a full glass of red wine. Willa was passing by with a tray of appetizers, moving silently, perfectly. Elena spun around, wild and clumsy. She smacked the tray. The glass of wine flew. Willa didn't think, she just reacted. She threw herself between Elena and the falling wine. Splash! The red liquid soaked Willa's grey uniform instantly. The music stopped. The room went silent. Elena stared at Willa. Then her face twisted into a mask of pure, ugly entitlement. "You clumsy idiot," she screamed. "Look what you've done. You nearly ruined my gown." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitmore," Willa whispered, head down. "I tried to catch it." "You tried, you're useless." Elena stepped forward, towering over Willa. "God, look at you. You look like a drowned rat. You smell like wine and failure. Who hired you? You look like you just walked off the street. You look homeless." She grabbed Willa's arm, yanking her forward. "And what is this?" Elena's eyes zeroed in on the copper ring. "What is this garbage on your hand?" "Please," Willa said, trying to pull away. "It's trash," Elena laughed, a cruel, shrieking sound. "It's literal wire. Did you find this in a dumpster? Is this what you think jewelry is? Oh, honey, your family must have been absolute dirt if you think this is worth wearing. It's pathetic. You're pathetic. You're a stain on this room." She yanked Willa's hand hard. The old, brittle copper wire snapped. Clink! The ring hit the marble floor. The sea glass skittered across the tiles, stopping under a flower arrangement. Willa let out a sound like a wounded animal. She dropped to her knees, scrambling for it. "Leave it," Elena kicked at Willa's hand. Don't you dare crawl around my feet. You have no dignity. You are nothing. You are the dirt we wipe off our shoes. I took a step forward. I didn't care about the job anymore. I was going to throw this woman out the window, but then I saw him. Sterling Vance was moving. He wasn't walking. He was stalking. He cut through the crowd like a shark through water. He didn't look at the senators. He didn't look at the cameras. He looked only at Willa on her knees. Sterling stopped. He dropped to his knees beside her. This billionaire in his $5,000 tuxedo knelt on the floor. He reached under the flowers. His hand came out trembling, holding the broken copper wire and the piece of sea glass. He pulled a silk handkerchief from his pocket. He wiped the glass. He treated it like it was sacred. He stood up. He helped Willa up. And then he turned to Alina. I have never seen eyes that cold. Mrs. Whitmore, Sterling said. His voice wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a judgment. Sterling, look at this mess, Alina huffed, fixing her dress. This creature. Be quiet, Sterling said. You just called this ring trash. It is, Alina rolled her eyes. It's wire, Sterling, it's garbage. This ring, Sterling said, holding it up, is worth more than your life. It is worth more than your husband's portfolio. It is worth more than this entire house. You're being dramatic, Alina scoffed. It looks cheap, just like her, just like that big brute over there, she pointed at me. They're all the same. Low class, no breeding. Sterling stepped into her space. You talk about value, you talk about class. You are bankrupt, Alina. Your soul is empty, you are noise, you are ugly, hateful noise. He looked at the ring, then at Willa. I made this ring 20 years ago, behind the tool shed at Mercy House. I promised a girl I would buy her a diamond as big as a goose egg. She told me no. She said she wanted this because it was the color of my eyes. The room gasped. Alina turned pale. She kept it, Sterling said, his voice cracking. 20 years. I became a monster to survive. I built walls. I forgot how to be human, but she kept the ring. He turned to me. Marcus. Yes, sir. Escort Mrs. Whitmore out. If she speaks, if she makes a sound, if she even looks at anyone on my staff with anything other than absolute fear, you have my permission to carry her out like the garbage she is. I smiled. It was the first real smile I'd smiled in years. I walked up to Alina. I stood to my full height. I let my shadow fall over her. Time to go, Mrs. Whitmore, I said, my voice deep and vibrating in my chest. And don't worry about the dark. You're used to living in the sewer. She ran, actually ran. Sterling didn't watch her go. He was looking at Willa. He took the broken wire and slid it back onto her finger. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. You remember, Willa cried. I never forgot, he said. I just got lost. Willa tried to leave that night. She left a resignation letter. She thought she wasn't good enough. She thought the world wouldn't let them be. I drove Sterling to her apartment in the bad part of town. He didn't care. He sat on the curb with her. He had a spool of copper wire he bought from a 24-hour hardware store. I don't have a diamond, he told her. I just have this, and I have me, and I'm broken, Willa, I'm difficult, but I'm yours. He twisted a new ring right there on the sidewalk, and she said yes. A year later, the iron mill is different. The staff isn't invisible. We have names, we have bonuses. I'm the head of estate operations now. Alina Whitmore, her husband got indicted for fraud. Turns out Sterling made a few phone calls. She lost the house, the cars, the jewels. Last I heard, she was living in a motel in Nevada. But the best part, last week, I walked into the kitchen. Sterling was sitting at the counter wearing a t-shirt. Willa was cooking soup, tomato, too much pepper, not enough meat, just like the orphanage used to serve. Sterling looked up at me. Marcus, grab a bowl, it's getting cold. I sat down, we ate soup, and on Sterling's hand, right next to his platinum watch, was a ring made of twisted copper wire. He caught me looking at it. He smiled. It conducts heat, Marcus. Diamonds are cold. Copper gets warm when you hold it. And that's the truth. You can have all the money in the world. You can treat people like dirt. You can think you're better than everyone because of the color of your skin or the zeros in your bank account. But in the end, you're just poor. Real wealth is having someone who keeps your copper ring for 20 years. Real wealth is being seen. So to anyone out there who feels invisible, who feels like the world is pushing them down, stand tall, keep your head up, because the kings and queens of this world are just wearing costumes, and the ghosts, we are the ones who really run the show. If you liked this story, if you felt that justice in your bones, hit that like button, subscribe for more, Because everyone deserves to be seen. I'm Marcus, and I'll catch you in the next one.